Good morning, students. Today we are going to read the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. And before reading the poem, let us know about the poet. So, the poet is Robert Lee Frost. He was born on 26th March 1874 and died on 29th January 1963. He was an American poet known as a nature poet, realistic depiction of rural life. So he is known for realistic depiction of rural life, and this is important to know because most of his poems are about rural life. Okay, he is also known for his use of idiomatic language and ordinary everyday subject matter. So his language is, though it looked very simple, but his language has got deep rooted meaning. And the subject matter that he chooses, the subject matter looks quite ordinary, quite simple. With that subject matter, he wants to give deep meaning to that subject matter, though it looked very simple, but his poems are really thought provoking. The poem was published in 1916. It was the first poem in Mountain Interval. Mountain Interval is a collection of poems. And what the poem tells us, the poem tells about the divergence of paths. The two paths are there in front of the poet, so divergence of path, different paths are there. So this poem is about those paths. And in fact, in reality, the poem is about making choices. The poem is about what choices we make in our life. The main points are as follow. The poet is standing before a road that bifurcates, that divides into two. So the poet is standing and a road is there in front of him and it divides in two. It divides into two branches or forks. The road divides into two more branches. So now that road separates into two. The road, and the road, as we have read about the poet, it takes simple thing and give deep meaning in that. So the road is a very ordinary thing that he had taken as a subject matter, but the road is not merely road here. It symbolizes, it has a symbol, it has the other meaning. And what is the other meaning? The journey of life. So the road stands here for the journey of life and the image of road. And when the road separates into paths, so it symbolizes a choice. So the road itself is the symbol of life, and divergence of road symbolizes a choice. Both choices look same and favorable to the poet, and when the poet looks at the road, both the roads are quite similar. Choices can make or mar our future. So the poet will tell in this poem that how our choices can make our future and can mar. Mar means destroy, can ruin our future as well. The poet does not indicate whether the road he chose was right one. So the poet didn't tell whether the road that he had chosen that time was right one or the wrong one. Okay, it will be decided by the poet later on. So he does not make clear that the way he is going now and the place he ends up is better or worse, but he asserts that it is the result of his decision. What he wants to say, he wants to make clear to us that the way he is going now, the way he is going now means now he is in present, so many years after that choice. Okay, he is going now means in future time, the way he is there, the place that he ends up, and he ends up means same in his future life. The place is better or worse, but so he is not making it clear that there was a choice in front of the poet and he had a selection at that point of time, but he is not going to tell us whether this selection was good or not. But he asserts, but one thing he states, and what does he say? He asserts that it is the result of his decisions, and whatever life he is leading in future, so that life is because of his selection that he made that time. Okay, so now we'll go through the poem. This well-known poem, well-known, famous. Okay, so this well-known poem is about well-known, famous. This poem is about making choices that has already been discussed here, and the choices that shape us. Shape us means the choices that makes our future or that decides our future, shape our future. Robert Frost is an American poet who writes simply, in a very simple way, writes simply but insightfully with the deep understanding. He writes about common ordinary experiences. He had experienced very common things, but that experience was full of insight, full of understanding, and whatever he has presented before us, it is really a very insightful poem. So what the poem is, let us go through the poem. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. As it had been told before, that the poet is standing, and in front of the poet there are two roads diverged, bifurcated, separated, in a yellow wood. In a wood, he is standing in a forest, and in front of him are two roads, and it is a yellow wood. Yellow wood here stands for autumn season, because we know that in autumn season trees shed the leaves got yellow and pale, and they fall. So what the first line says, that the poet is standing in the forest, in front of him are two roads, and it is autumn season. And sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. And sorry, and he is feeling very sad. Why is he sorry? Because he could not travel both. The same way, we have got so many choices, and we are sorry because we cannot choose so many things. We can choose only one thing out of these choices. So that's happening with the poet himself. He has got two choices. He has got two roads in front of him, and he is sorry. And why is he sorry? Because he could not travel both. He could not go through both those roads and be one traveler. Why? Because he is only one traveler. He's a single traveler there, and he could not travel both those roads, and that made him sad. Long I stood, and because he could not travel both roads, so this was a decision that he was to make, and that decision should be taken very patiently, very confidently. So he stood there for a long time. Long he stood and looked down one, and he looked at one choice that was there in front of him, or one road, we can say. As far as I could, as far as his eyes can see, he saw those roads, to where it bent in the undergrowth. And how far he could see where the road goes, or where the road bends, to the undergrowth is a place with full of trees and vegetation and plants, that is called, we can say, forest. A forest that is full of trees. So the first stanza tells that the poet is standing in front of two roads in the forest. It is autumn season here, and there are two choices in front of him. He could not choose both those roads, and that's why he is thinking very hard which road he could see, because both the roads are standing the same, both the roads are looking the same. Then took the other. Took the other means he looked to the other road, because here he looked to the one road, and now he looked to the other road, just as fair. The other road was looking as fair, were looking as good as the previous one, as the first one, and having perhaps the better claim. And the second road claims better than the first one, which claim it makes that the poet should walk onto that road. So that claim is making the second road. Because it was grassy. The second road was full of grass. It was fresh and wanted wear. And the road wanted that anyone could walk onto that wear. Okay, wanted wear here means that it had the road was presenting a better claim that the poet should move onto that road. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. Though, as for the passing there, if the poet talks about how many people had passed through those roads, as for passing there, if the poet talks about how many people had gone through those roads, there had warned them really about the same. The number of people had warned them. It means the number of people. Same means the number of people who walked over those roads was the same. Okay, so in the second stanza he says that he has seen the second road as well. It was also claiming that it is fresh and it should be gone through. The poet says that both the roads were looking similar, and the poet's condition is so, because first he chose the one and then he thinks that the second road is good. Why is it happening? Because he knows that it is very important time of his life. He has to make a decision, and this decision is so important that it will decide his future. That's why he is not in a good band of mind. Okay, so he's changing his decision, and what he says in third stanza: and both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Okay, so the second stanza, it presents some confusion in the mind of the poet, but in the third stanza he decides, because he had to choose and he had chosen. And both that morning equally lay, and that morning both the roads were lying equal. In leaves no step had trodden black, so no one had walked through that through both the roads straight to walk over something, to stamp over something. So the number of people that have walked through the road that morning was zero. No one had trodden them black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. So what he did, he had made his decision, and what decision he had made? He had left the first one. I kept the first for another day. It means that day he is not going to choose the first road. So which road he had chosen? He had chosen the second one. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, and yet he knows, the poet knows how the way leads on to way. It means he knows where his decision would take him. I doubted, and he had doubts in his mind. Even he knew it perfectly well, that if he should ever come back, if he's going to choose one road, he should not come back to choose the second one. That's why he is in a dilemma which road he is to choose. And when he decides, he says it with a very heavy heart that maybe his decision not prove good to him. So both the roads were equally lay there. They were similar, they were looking similar to him. Yet knowing how way lead on to way, he knew how the roads are going to take him. And he had the doubt that once taken that road or any road, he will not come back in the future, or from the future he will not come back and take the other one. So this is the decision. That's how he says that the decision making is very important there for the poet. I shall be telling this with a sigh. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere, ages and ages hence. So what shall he be telling? He shall be telling this. This means that he had the chance to choose one of those roads, and he has chosen this. So this incident, he said that he will talk about this incident with a sigh. Sigh means when we release our breath. maybe out of sadness, maybe out of relief. So he's not going to tell definitely whether he was happy or he was sad. Okay, but he said that in future he would talk about his decision with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hands. Hands means that from here means from the time he is making the decision, the time when he made the decision. He will talk about this time, telling he will talk about this time in the future. Ages and ages means in the future he will talk about this decision making. Okay, and he will talk about with a sigh, and this sigh might be the sigh of relief, and also it might be the sigh of sadness. So he is talking about his future in a sense. Now, two roads diverged in a wood, and I. So what he's going to tell in future, aces and aces hands, what he will talk about aces and aces hands. So what he will talk about in future, he will talk about his decision, he will talk about his choices, that he had got two roads that diverged in a wood, that he had got two choices in front of him and he had chosen one. And I took the one less traveled by. And which road did he take? He took the second one. And why? Because it was less traveled by. So many people. So he had chosen the way out of rut. This also tells the character of the poet. He is really brave to choose that road which has been experienced by so many people, and that has made all the difference. And that has made all the difference. What has made all the difference? He's choosing the second road. He's choosing the second road, or he's choosing the road that was less traveled by, and this had made the difference. And what difference he is talking about? He tells that if he had chosen the other road, his future might have been different, and now he has as yet chosen the second road. That's why his future is like that. So he's not telling about what future he is having. He has just told us that our choices decide our future. So in all, we can say that this is really a very good poem. And what the poet is going to tell in this poem, that in life we are often presented with many choices. So many choices are there in the life of a student. We can say that which school he is to choose, and later on after 10th which stream he is to choose. So many choices are there, and the important thing, and what important thing is there, is decision making. Out of those so many choices, we have to make our decision, we have to make up our mind and choose one thing, select one thing, and the confidence we show in the choice making. So what is important, that the poet wants us to understand that the decision making, and that decision making will be confidently. We should have confidence on our decision, and the poet had. We should always consider the fact that once the selection is made, out of so many options, we cannot come back and change our future when the result of our choices comes. And that's why it was very important to have that choice very patiently. So we should always consider, we should think that the fact that once the selection is made once when we have chosen something. Okay, because we had got so many options, and out of those options we had selected one thing, and then that thing will take us to our future. Okay, it will decide our future, and in future we will come to know that we are, or we will be there in the future because of that decision, or that selection that we have made. So we cannot come back, and from future time we cannot come back and change our future when the result of that choice comes. When we have got the result of that choice, we will not be able to change that thing. Okay, we cannot come back, and we cannot come back and choose the other thing. This cannot be done. Okay, so how the poem has been written. Okay, the sense we have understood, it was written really beautifully. It is thought-provoking poem, but what technique is there the poet has used here? So the poem consists of four stanzas of 5 lines each. Okay, the rhyme scheme of per stanza is A B A A B. You all know how the rhyme scheme is to be decided. So let me tell you, as we see the last sound of a line, and if the sound is repeated, the same word is to be given. If the sound is separate, then it should be given the other character, and the first sound would be marked as A. So as here the sound is sigh, so it could be marked A. And hence, psi and hence separate. B and I, psi and I is similar. That's why A, B, A. By, I and by. Okay, same sound. That's why A, B, A, A. And difference, B, B. Okay, hence and difference similar. That's why it is B, B. So the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, A, B. And prose primarily makes use of metaphor. Now we'll talk about literary devices. So metaphor is used, and I'm sure you know what metaphor is. A metaphor is a comparison between two dissimilar things, and it is indirect comparison. So how metaphor is used, he is comparing the road to the journey of our life, and the divergence of road to the choices that we make. The whole poem is an extended metaphor. It is very large metaphor, extended it is, and the road acts as a metaphor for life, that is told to you. And other figure of speech, if I can say so, alliteration is used as what is alliteration? When the consonant sound in a line of poetry is repeated. So here want and were sound is repeated. That's why alliteration is used. So overall, I can say that it is a very good poem. Technically, it is good. Simple words are being used by the poet, but the thought that had been given, very deep and philosophical thoughts are given to that poem. So, with that note, I'd like to thank you, and I hope that you have understood the poem and you will be able to answer all those questions that have been asked on internal as well. Thank you for the next video.